Okay. Hello? Hello? Yeah, that's just very low.
Hello? Okay, so what's cool about it is that they are built upon another open source tool, and they also open sourced their tooling. And that's not so common today. So,
Thank you.
thanks. So, welcome to the last talk in the web dev room today. We try to make it as easy and smooth as possible after a long day. And we want to share some experience of building the OpenSpeedMonitor and what we learned the hard way during all the time, and want to encourage you to also build open source software, even though you might think it wouldn't be worth it in the first place. But yeah, let's get into this first by explaining what we are not doing. So, are we product developers? No, we are not doing anything for specific products that we are selling to customers.
So do we earn our money with open source?
Also, no.
Not
clear
really.
No. No money from that, but that's fine. Are we researchers? Academic, like every researcher looks like this, probably, but still not us.
Yeah, and we have some of the people from Akamai here, and there are a lot of services which take performance in the center. That's their core business. It's not our way. So we are not in this business as a main purpose.
Yes. So who are we actually? Like this Niels, I'm Stefan, and we are working for an IT service provider called Iteratech. And actually, we're just full stack developers, and we are building sophisticated software systems for our customers, which are mostly internal stuff, like for enterprises. So how did we get into touch with all that stuff? Why are we now implementing and maintaining the OpenSpeedMonitor since 8 years? And how did we get into daily web performance work anyway? So how this happened and what we learned during that way, this will be the key part of our talk. We hope you can have some takeaway from it. So to tell you what happened, let's go back to 2011.
Yeah, so the whole project started 2011, and we came to this topic because one of our customers, we did some other development jobs, very large e-commerce platform, had a very simple setup to measure their web performance. It was basically to ping some URLs and get the times from it. Then that was basically it. And yeah, it was really simple, and it was just like a smoke test whether the page is up or not. And they wanted to improve that. And in 2011, there was some attraction to web performance, but not too much. And so they asked us whether we can help them to build something that gets more insights for it.
If you would have these questions today, you would have a lot of tools like Lighthouse, all that stuff you can do in the browsers. We have web page tests in Forever. We have SiteSpeed.io. We have just a broad range of tools. But in 2011, just to take you back first and to give you an idea what our situation was like, a few facts. Like the market share in browsers was still mostly desktop. Mobile was not completely, but mostly irrelevant. And I mean, it was iPhone 3 time. Nokia was still a smartphone business, seriously, like they tried and so on. And if you look at it now, the world changed, definitely. If you look at the browsers directly and look how they looked like back then, it was a completely different world. The world was dominated by Internet Explorer. Fortunately, we are out of this time. But to be honest, it doesn't look that much more healthy on the 2019 side. So now Chrome is dominating, but still dominating, and I won't complain about Chrome. Yeah, and last but not least, let's look at the web performance tooling we had available. So PageSpeed Insight emerged in 2011, 2012. The navigation timing API was not yet available. There was no Lighthouse, no resource timing, no SiteSpeed.io, no things. There was web page test. Like there was web page test forever, I think. I don't know. I don't know a word without web page test. Yeah, it came with the internet, right? So this was our setup.
Yeah, that was basically the point where we are standing, and we had to think about a system that can provide detailed results and measurements, because our customer was really challenging. They wanted to have something that measures all the time, that measures a lot of different situations, different browsers, different internet connectivities, and they wanted to be able to deep dive into every result. So what they had before was just something the operations team could use, but they wanted a tool set that every developer could use to inspect the pages and to get a feeling what's going on and what could be better and could be improved. So Stefan already said it. Web page test was already there, and so no wonder we ended up with a setup like this. It was a private instance of web page test, measuring on different browsers with different connectivities, all the different sorts of like the real users visiting the page. And we used WPTMonitor, another PHP application in this time, which could be used to automate these measurements. So yeah, we got it running and it worked. But our customer came up with some more extended requirements. And one of them was derived from their analytics data. So they had very detailed idea of their users, and they had defined or derived different user types from the analytics data. So something like the Explorer guy or the direct buyer or something like that. So these types of users are walking through the application in different ways, and these are different user stories, customer journeys, so to say, and they wanted these customer journeys or these user types to be reflected in the measurements. So they wanted the measurements to walk through the shop in the same way like the real users did. And that totally makes sense because of browser cache fills up in a realistic way and things like that. And another thing they wanted was somehow to get an overview of the overall performance of the whole application. So they wanted to be able to combine all the different measurements to one single number, something like that. So a key performance indicator for performance. So we realized that this initial setup with web page test wasn't enough. So we had to extend this, and we had to build some things around it to get this done. And this was the development that started, that finally led to the OpenSpeedMonitor. And our initial approach was something like this. So we had still WPTMonitor with web page test, and we derived additional information from the data. So we had something in between. In the beginning, just a proxy for web page test, which collects the data and applies some logic to derive this KPI, and we call it Customer Satisfaction Index. I don't want to go too much into detail, but they ask some real users in a lab how they feel the page behaves, and we derived together with our customer informations about how page load timings for different pages translate to the satisfaction of the users of the pages. So all this together gets the possibility to combine this to one single index.
So this was where we were in 2012, and we evolved this for the customer to 2013 and 14. And as we build software, as we do in our business, it was closed source. There was no intent to have it available for others. And in 2014, there was the idea to just open source it without having a bigger picture in mind. Like not caring, it was just a good idea. Everything was open source. Why not put it open source? We developed it for 2 years then, and it built a nice component, and we could think it would be useful for others. So long story short, we talked to the customer, and they agreed that we could open source it and maintain it. So we had the naive approach of just going there and putting it open source. So we had one commit by Niels, all the code base pushed to GitHub, and we quickly realized, well, mistakes have been made. They are online now, and the first learning came quickly, that open sourcing a project is slightly more than just pushing it to GitHub. So this was the OpenSpeedMonitor when you would open it with the code base we had on GitHub that day. Like you started it and it was a complete power user tool. I mean, we had it for our customers, set up private infrastructure, everything. And so if you would just open it from GitHub or download it, compile it, get all the information how to actually, well, start it, then you would see this, which is totally unusable for anybody who has no idea of what it's about, because it's about direct filter options on results and so on. There was no getting started documentation, no setup dialog, and it was just hard to start. Also, our main feature, the customer satisfaction index, was completely hard to configure. It was about downloading CSVs and uploading them, and we had APIs for them because it was never intended to be a tool to be open sourced and just used. So it was completely inaccessible to other people, and we learned that the hard way because nobody cared. But that was not hard enough. Like, we forked web page test by then because web page test was not able to do everything we wanted it to do. And then we weren't, of course, when we put our tool open source, we need other people to have this fork available, but not as our fork, of course, because we were diverged from web page test. So we simply tried to, yes, have a pull request. If you take a closer look, it's a dream of every maintainer, like 50,000 addition, 8,000 deletions, 80 commits with references to internal tickets. And yeah, no wonder it was not accepted. It was not even commented on, like, yeah, we can do it, but I need some time to check it. Yeah, so they never made it into web page test, and that was a hard lesson to learn for us, but yeah.
Yeah, so that was not very nice because we were a part of the new features in web page test, and nobody could use our feature, so no good solution, no good situation. But nevertheless, the next year we extended our services. We had further customers, which we analyzed applications for, and we had a lot of work. And our setup worked, so we kept with it, with the situation like it was, and yeah, just worked with it.
And we used the OpenSpeedMonitor for many customers in that day and evolved it, but we didn't focus on open source.
Yeah, that's it. And there were some other challenges. So we all at Iteratech are software developers, and we do development projects for different companies. And so we had a lot of changes in the team. So it was just a small team developing this tool, and yeah, most of the people were there for some weeks or months maybe, and then switching. And yeah, it's hard to keep track of all the changes that happen in this area. So web development is very much, there are a lot of changes in metrics, in the browser metrics, or in everything. So it wasn't so easy to keep track of this all the time. So we didn't found the time, or we didn't realize the changes needed. But finally, at some point, we decided, okay, that we can't go this way anymore. We have to do this invest to get this merged back into web page test, and that was really a good decision. So it was a lot of work, mainly done by Stefan, and it was a complete re-implementation we had to do because the fork was, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years or something away from web page test. But finally we got it, and we could. It made the way to the web page test and was very useful for us, and I think also very useful for others. And yeah.
And we also made lots of effort to make the OpenSpeedMonitor itself usable, like a little screenshot on the bottom right. We had a landing page which explained what it actually does. We had wizards for setting up measurements, for setting up the infrastructure. So at this point, around that time, you could actually just start it and you're getting introduced on how to connect to web page tests, how to set up steps, scripts, how to set up measurements. You could use the official web page test instance to actually use the OpenSpeedMonitor. So we were in a much better position. Yeah.
So this is the next lesson we learned. Working together is really key. So it's very important, not just doing your own thing and consume some open source project and do things with it, but also, also have it in mind that the changes you make, you should integrate again and work together with the people developing different tools. And yeah, the effort we made to re-implement and integrate this multi-step feature also, the advantage we had was that every web page test development since then reflects or takes multi-step measurement into account. So that was a huge benefit we get from it.
Yeah, like Patrick Meenan, the maintainer and developer and everything of web page tests, he cared about it, and we got actually support from him. Like when we introduced it and gave him the work and everybody, then we got it back from the community and from him, and that was hugely beneficial for us. And actually some people started to care and use the OpenSpeedMonitor. So first issues on GitHub appeared from random people we don't know about, but it was a good sign. I mean, they were complaining, but we were happy that people complained. Because it means people care, and that's nice. But let's get to 2017. So our customers cared more about mobile performance. Has anybody yet tried to measure synthetic performance on a real devices other than, well, servers or desktop PCs, like mobile? Well, we tried, or we do, and it looks like this. So this is basically like a drawer from a server rack, and we have lots of stuff in there. The data center is not very happy about that stuff that we put in there, but still they let us do it. And we had it in the first place, like one or two iPhones, a tablet, an Android smartphone, but we needed to upgrade it. We needed to measure different things. And things were completely getting out of control for us. Like this happened, for example. If you can't see it, the battery was blowing up and like basically blowing up the phone, because no phone is constructed to be 24/7 being on power, measuring websites, and yeah. So this was happening, and we were like, is this normal? Can we do something about it?
And every time when we went to the data center, it was a bit scary. What happened?
Every time we had a call, we were afraid that they would say, yeah, our data center is on fire because of you. And like this was what we needed to build to make like any kind of operations. So I don't want to go into detail, but we had Raspberry Pis lying around for every mobile phone with bash scripts on it running, measuring battery temperature, reporting it to us, restarting the network, doing the traffic shaping. And it was, one bash script started with it, then another came, then we had 10 bash scripts doing stuff. And I mean, it was working, but it was not stable in the end. So every time I went into the office, we had a few phones in the office by then, I got into the room, restarted every phone, and get to my desk. And in the evening, I would restart every phone and get home. Like, that was not a good idea. So we started, obviously, to talk to people about it, and this was a really good idea. Because it turns out they also had problems. The agent running the code was not stable itself. It was not fixable just by having more bash scripts, it turned out. So we got input like, we need a rewrite of the agent. And we reported our struggles. And we heard what other people would do. And like when Pat Meenan implemented it at the end, he made it really better for us. So all that discussion with the community and the exchange was really, really important, as equally as important as contributing and sharing code. So the new agent running on the mobile phones was developed Because we were in touch with the community, all our things we needed it to do were already implemented, or we could directly like talk to it and keep track and implement the stuff we needed. And we knew that other people's phones would also blow up. And this was good for us because, I mean, there's still, like the battery thing, it happens till today. Our solution is to change the battery or the phone every 6 months. It's not a good solution, but everybody is doing it this way, like everybody we talk to, like Pat Meena is doing it this way, Andy Davis is doing it this way. They all have that battery blow-up problem. So it's not solved, but it's better for us to know that other people have the same problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next year, 2018, we did several things in the OpenSpeedMonitor. The main part was that we realized there are, again, some new metrics and really important metrics because they take the user into more into account. So the user, they are sort of called user-centric metrics because they are not so technical. When is the page loaded? When does the first byte arrives or something like that? So instead, it's more like when is the most important part of the page rendered? So when are the hero timings, we heard it before, rendered? Or when is a page usable? When is the main thread so free to handle user interaction with the page? So time to interactive is a metric that can measure things like that. And these new metrics were developed by different people. For example, hero timings were integrated to web page test by developers from SpeedCurve, I think so. And yeah, we integrated them into OpenSpeedMonitor to be able to track them over time. So that was really another lesson we learned. It's important to share your code and other people can use it. For example, this multi-step feature is used by others now. And on the other way, if people develop things like SpeedCurve and they also open source it and put it into web page test, we can use it. So together we can really get way further than we would build everything on our own.
It would be impossible for us to care about all the stuff ourselves because we are still doing customer work all the day and have just a little time left for the OpenSpeedMonitor. And just with all that work from the community and that we like exchanged everything with them, it was just possible for us to keep track with all the development in the web performance area. So yeah. So we did a lot of stuff in 2019 and 2020 in the OpenSpeedMonitor. We have a new dashboard for the whole application to monitor the performance. We integrated a new feature called performance aspects because people or our customers always ask us how fast is it, when is the page, when is it available, when is it interactive, when does anything happen. They didn't just care about one question. And we thought it would be a good idea to just reflect these questions in the OpenSpeedMonitor. So like you can have not just metrics by now, but these questions, and then we have an interactive metric explorer to assign metrics to these questions to abstract from the metrics and having an easy solution for the customers to see like this page is interactive at this time and how it's measured. They don't care about it, to be honest, and you can define it once per page or something.
Yeah, this is something we also learned. It isn't the same metric on different pages always. So if you have the question when is the main part rendered or when does rendering starts, and you need different metrics on different sort of pages. So we abstracted from that and built something like just a metric, is it usable? And
yeah, but still it's 2020 now, and we need to say community engagement with the OpenSpeedMonitor is still low. And that's okay for us actually, because in a long time we tried to build a community around it or thought about doing it, but we really learned it the hard way that we have no time for it just to do it, and we don't need to force people to do it because we could still provide or use it on our own and have all the benefits for our customers. And like, it was not important that people contribute to our project because all the contributions around were what was keeping us alive and what was even important for us. So yeah, the lesson learned here is community doesn't come for free and needs love. Actually, probably, we don't know. We can just make assumptions why we don't have something, but we can just say in the end, it's okay for us. It doesn't need a community to be an open source project which is successful for you. Because for us, it is a success because we can use it, and we couldn't use that tool with these requirements for our customers if we haven't built it open source. Yeah, so let's have a quick wrap up of the three key things that we took away from the time and then you maybe can take away from our experience. So first of all, without open source software, we would still be on a web performance level of 2012. Like not we, like you and us, but we. Because 2012 was when we diverged from web page test and when we built our own tool set, which was not open source, and we could not have used all the features and all that discussion because we would have lost the rest. And then we wouldn't have enough funding from customers to care about and build it ourselves. So yeah.
Probably we wouldn't be there and we wouldn't do anything with the web page test anymore.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be standing here.
So the next of the three lessons thesis we want to present is it's not that important how many lines of code anybody else is contributing to your project. It's much more important what happens around this. So to collaborate with other projects, to build the things into other projects that you need for yourself, and to talk to the people to take part of it. And yeah.
And the last one is that you don't need to be a key player in web performance to contribute. You don't need to be a researcher, a browser developer, or being in a web performance team, which are totally cool things. But if you're just a developer like us and just have the chance of doing something, you can still play your part. You can contribute and you can do something without being, without it being your major profession. And yeah, sometimes it's just enough to just share and discuss what you are doing and not just being in your black box. And yeah, we are really happy to be part of all this stuff because, I mean, for us, it got a passion. We are still doing it. We're standing it. We care about it. And it would not have been possible if we would not have taken the step of putting the OpenSpeedMonitor open source. So in this way, we can just encourage you to, even if you think my tool will not be used or it is not used, just put it open source, engage with the community, and you can benefit from it. Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for the Wikipedia team or Wikimedia team to have this dev room. It was a really interesting afternoon, and enjoy the rest of the FOSDEM. Somebody has a question, feel free to ask or ask us later. Yeah.
I was wondering why not getting rid of the whole battery thing? Because you can just input the DC converter to the battery sockets on all of the phones, so basically you won't have the battery problem.
Well, there was some discussion. Turned out the battery has still a bit more logic than just plugging it there. There were some attempts by people to replace the battery by a DC charger. It did not work out to be a stable operation. So, yeah.
You've tried it? Sounds like.
No, but I can very much imagine it. Like, A, you can't operate it out of the device most of the time because you don't have the ability anymore to get the battery out of it. And B, there's so much logic in these devices that needs to maintain that.
Yeah. It's a pity, but sometimes you really need to replace a whole smartphone just because the battery is blowing up. Yeah, they have. That's why we talked to them, and that was making us really happy that they are also experiencing the same issues and cannot solve it. So, yeah.
What point did you notice a trend, for example, in GitHub clones of your project? I mean, what point was it when you improved documentation, or you put in a feature, or in a Do you get some?
So the question is, what was the fact that got us like
No, what
people using it? Or?
no, at what moment you notice a trend that more people started using your project?
Ah, okay.
product?
Well, it was basically when we made it available for others to use and being set up and help them to get into the project, because if you run it and you have no idea how to set it up, you will probably not use it. So when we developed that and we had some documentation, issues arose, and these issues showed us that people were caring. And issues or emails are still coming from people we didn't know, like, yeah, we are using it for 2 years now, can we do this and this? And we are like, I don't know. I didn't know someone is using it. Like,
Yeah, but also things like Docker helped. So we improved the documentation, and then we had the Docker Compose file, and then it's much easier to just start up and have a look.
yeah, like 2017 or something, we provided a Docker Compose file, setting up everything, including a web page test instance or an API token, I don't know. But just having a complete setup with one command was very important.
How much time do you guys spend working on it?
It really depends on the month and days and on the team. Like, I'm out of developing it for like half a year now because I have a different project and I do some fun stuff maybe and get not no, I mean the more funny parts of seeing the development of OpenSpeedMonitor and seeing what's going on, but also for me seeing what's going on in web page tests, because in the end we highly depend on web page tests. So if I have time, I track what's up in web page tests more. But it's different for you.
Yeah, I'm also out for 2 or 3 months now, but from time to time I'm there, and yeah, it really differs a lot.
We have over the last 7 years, you could say would have 1 or 2 full people caring about OpenSpeedMonitor, but more work was like all the operations, because we have the private instances for our customers, but it was all the same team for us, which was caring about the customers, doing web performance analysis for different customers, developing the OpenSpeedMonitor so that it would not die because of old old technology, and yeah. So it was always a mixture. You couldn't say so many hours. Okay, great. Thanks.